Hello comic book fans, here's Earl Grey. Since I whetted your appetite in my last haul video, I think I'm obliged to show you this baby here, the Bernie Wrightson Artifact Edition. And I have some books here, because some of the stuff that is reprinted here is reprinted there in different formats, of course. These are the books, the Showcase, DC Showcase, as the Marvel Essential ones, that I would like to call the Poor Man's Artist Edition, because all the stories here are reprinted in black and white on pulpy paper. Some of you don't dig this pulpy paper too much, but it's yellowing in my cellar not too quick, so I think this book and me, we will have a great future together. Pretty cheap, these books, as long as you can get them. They are selling out one by one, slowly but steadily, I think. And of course here the Swamp Thing Bronze Age Omnibus maybe serves some purposes in this video here. But we want to talk, or I want to talk, of course, mainly about the Artifact Edition. There's cover A with Swamp Thing on the cover, but it seems to be pretty sold out, at least over here. And I didn't want to risk that this cover B version will get sold out as well, so I bought it. And there's nothing wrong with it. And there's one thing that I like about this cover B here, is that it points out the importance of the view of someone who looks at something horrible, which is so typical Bernie Wrightson, and it mirrors in a way, of course, us readers when we dig into this book. The book at hand here is about the same size as the Batman Sam Keith or Kelly Jones edition. It's a bit thinner though. It clocks in at 150 pages, while the aforementioned artist editions have 100 pages more. So that's maybe not so unimportant. This book here is more a selection. The Artifact editions, as far as I've understood it, aren't so much about complete stories. Overall, it's a selection of pages of art. Here we have the table of contents. And there's a lot of Swamp Thing in the Artifact edition here. For sure. And maybe I can give you here the comparison between this page and that one here. And it's not only about black and white and the different format, of course, but about all the details that you can just see in this edition, like the whiteout stuff that's happening over here or over there, and you can feel actually the brush strokes here. That's with another color, or maybe this is a whiteout with a brush, and that's of course lost in the slicker end product here. And as you can see, the next page would have been this one here, or that one, but we get on page 8, let's see, that's this one here, some pages further in the story. But when you had read one time in your life the story here, you won't be lost. You get the story, of course, and you will remember the stuff here, and it's jumping around in a good way in the story. And I really like this approach. Maybe they simply didn't have the pages for reproduction here at hand, so they skipped them. In an artist edition, you usually get some smaller reprints from some other source to fill up the story, that you can understand the story. But here it's a different approach. And you can see that some pages were more exposed to the sun than others. So this is here definitely more yellowed than this page here. And some pages are astonishingly white. For example, this one here. Oh, I love this page here. This is very early, very true to the heart what Swampy is. All is humanity in this reddish eye, and his facial features, as weird as they are, show his character in a way. But if I should select one Wrightson Swamp Thing page, maybe it would be this page, or some of the cloppering with the arcane monsters. But this here is very cool. I wanted to show you this in the real version here, the artifact version. Yeah, look at that one here. This is cool. This is even cooler. On the one hand, you have Swampy as a new Frankenstein monster in a way. And on the other hand, it evokes some pictures that you may have seen in Christian context, Jesus on a cross. However the cross may was shaped, there are different beliefs. So, and I don't know if this is intended in this right here book, but on the opposite page, again, there are some pages missing, but in this case it's really good because they refer to the becoming a monster of the Swamp Thing, his origin, as images of resurrection, as a great twisted form rose from the grasping mire. And this being resurrected from the dead, that's something, of course, pretty Christian as well. And all these illusions and ideas aside, this is just an amazing drawing, especially in this size here. And you really see that this is drawn with a different brush than the other part. Maybe it's even cut out and glued on it, but it doesn't look this way. The interplay of shadows here, creating a really complex space underneath of this arcane dude. And by the way, in this artist edition, you can already see how these letters are glued onto the drawing. And here's a bit of zipper-tone action going on, and you can guess that this was a hell of a work to do. And at some places you can tell that drawings were cut out and glued onto the page, but it's with Wrightson it's not always so clear, because it's also seamlessly so perfect. Without seams, I want to say. Yeah, as I said, it's a lot of Swampy in this book here. Here you can see pencils that were done in preparation for... I love this werewolf. That were done in preparation for the actual panels. Here you can see this again. This is laboratory, and Look at the slick finished art there. Wouldn't be maybe not worth to mention in regard of all the other great Bernie Wrightson stuff, but if you're looking, can look at the pencils as well, this is really very interesting. Of course, the pencils are the other pencils, the real pencils under these drawings here, under the ink, are lost. They are lost under the ink, unfortunately. Yeah, this here is one of my favorite stories, actually. I've glanced over it in my Swamp Thing Bronze Age Omnibus review, but this is really a neat story with this alien meeting the monster. And now we come to one of the greatest features. I'm actually not talking about Arcane, even though this is great Wrightson stuff at its best, but I've actually wanted to talk about these fold outs here that they done. Let's see if you can see this. Yes. And on the back, not to waste any space, I guess this is the cover of the Saga of the Swamp Thing. There were 2 volumes at least. Well, this is the cover of volume 1. I think I have to wait a little time that you can dig, that you can take all the greatness here and look at these monsters just at the edge of the drawing, but it's greatness all over, or these trolls that climbing the trees, or the snake dude here. No, there's the snake, that's just a snakish or a reptilish creature. A lot going on. And here's the Saga of the Swamp Thing, or Swamp Thing Saga. The other cover. And that's an illustration for Secret of the Haunted Halls. At first I thought, oh, Long Halloween or something like that. But yeah, and we have here covers and frontispieces. This is the House of Secrets, the cover illustration here as well. I don't know if this was meant to be looking like this, with these little dot structures here. Anyhow, the original drawing looks a bit different. And here's the cover for the first Swamp Thing issue, and all the other iconic issues. All these iconic Swamp Thing covers, and I had quite a daydream, wet daydream, so to speak, about being the owner of this fine drawing here. It's so cool, so you feel the spark of genius in this drawing here, and at the same time it's so such a document of understatement. Just some lines here, some lines there, just that you can get the whole scenery, the idea, and boy, what a drawing. I love it. Yeah, and the finished stuff here is, of course, wonderful as well. So, and bam, on double page and double page follows here greatest Wrightson action, pencils, inks, whatever you want. And I guess this artifact concept here of selecting just the art for the sake of the art, and keeping the stories a bit aside. And so this is not a comic that you can actually read, but more an art book that you can drool over. I think this works very well. And it has all the grades here, the House of Mystery and the stuff here. Their showcase edition here, it's so incredibly cheap, and the font is, and the cover design is not the best, but the drawing from Wrightson is of course great here. And, yeah. So this is the source of the cover of the whole book here. And this is something out of the Metal Man, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and one of the few things that's not directly horror or Swamp Thing related. And same with this here, Kong the Untamed, but it has of course this Wrightsonish horror vibe to it. So, and one thing that Wrightson did, and did very well, was opening up a horror story for the House of Mystery or the House of Secrets. And you know the shtick with all these old horror stories where you have a splash panel by another artist, a better artist than the rest of it usually, who gives us a little introduction into the story, even if it's just with a cruel joke here. Kane telling us that he is a bit bored playing chess with this corpse because he will never make his move. Funny or not funny, anyhow the drawing is great. So here we can see the black and white version in my showcase edition of the House of Mystery. And if you don't have these, I really would highly recommend to buy any showcase edition that you can get, at least from the horror stuff, because horror comics usually look better in black and white. I wouldn't recommend the superhero stuff from the Fantastic Four, or when it comes to DC, don't know, some Justice League showcase edition, because the tights should be in color, I think. But when it comes to horror, western or crime, I'm all in with the showcase edition, even though it's so much to read that I would have to become 200 years to read every story twice. Oh, look at this cane with a dragon. This is wonderful. And this is again some intro splash page for, in this case, House of Mystery. Here we have a cover drawing for collection from the House of Mystery, and here is a splash panel for House of Secrets. Here you can see it in the size that it has been reproduced in. So, here is an awful lot of corrections from the editor, and you can see in blue the lines for the letterer. And this is pretty interesting, the Siren of Satan, even though the story is not better than the others. They're all great, in my opinion. But here are some corrections in the end where you can see really why Wrightson had done them. You can see the eyes of the lady here, I hope so. So, this thing focused. He made sure that she gets this intense look that really jumps at you out of the page, that made this her view, her gaze very special. And so he reworked it with white out. One thing that is very underrated in my opinion is Wrightson's sense of humor. He's really funny in places, even though it's some sort of dark fun he is having with us. For instance, here Cain is depicted as an artist in an over-exaggerated, totally over-the-top manner, with the stuff here around his neck and this French hat and paint dripping from his brush and so on. And maybe the funniest page here, I love this this little gargoyle bird that this sculptor has done, and it comes to life and flaps around a bit until his wife destroys it and stomps on it. It's a bit sad, of course, and we get our a dose of horror in this story. But look at the bird here when he is changed back into clay. That looks sad and fun at the same time. I really love that. And here again we have a bit the sense of humor that Wrightson had. But actually I wanted to point out something different. Here there's different aging of the different inks that Wrightson used. So we can see the different levels of this drawing better. Some have gotten brown, some stayed as black as they originally were. So yeah, we are coming to an end with this video and with this book here, but it's pretty superfluous that when I would tell you that you have to get this book here. If you're a swampy Wrightson or art fan, excellent. This is really excellent stuff here. And we even get a bit Batman in the end. Yeah, here's the pencil drawing of a cemetery, and yeah, unfortunately there's some truth to it. Bernie Wrightson, the artist, the kind soul, the great man, the great human being that he obviously was, has passed away, has left us 2017. Maybe this drawing here tells more than 1,000 words about what kind of man Bernie Wrightson was. He drew this picture of Swamp Thing and Crypto the dog for a friend to raise money, because this friend had a dog who needs, I guess, some medical help. So, and yeah, sorry to end on such a sad note, but we would all love to have him around and to do more amazing art for us. But what a fulfilling life of an artist he had. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.